Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today you're going to be seeing me get close, or maybe surpass, my highest experience ever inside the game, which is currently held by the VK2801 in a video which I released towards the end of last year. However, that game is from 2011, so you know you're onto something special in this video. So, this game is actually going to be very quick, so I've decided to talk from the beginning. Firstly, I'm playing in the Tier 8 Swedish Premium medium tank, it's the Lancen, and I'm spawning in one of my favourite maps in the game, which is Mines. It's a good old barn-busting slugfest right from the beginning of the battle. And it's important that you try to formulate a plan immediately to see if anyone from your team is going to contest the hill. I'm not really too concerned about the fact that I'm a Tier 8 tank against Tier 9 and Tier 10s. If I can manage to get a vehicle like the Lancen with great DPM and gun depression up on the hill, I know that I'm going to be able to have my optimum impact. And really, apart from that on Mines, your other opportunity from this side would be to go west. If you spawn down the south, you can go east. However, I feel that players who go over into the east and they forfeit the hill usually end up losing the battle, apart from in some situations where people end up proxy spotting and stopping players from the hill from being able to use that advantage. So as you can see, I'm a little bit annoyed that the LT432 is just rushing down the west, but I understand he's a Tier 8 tank in a Tier 10 game, and some players, I guess, just don't feel confident in that scenario. Instead, he wants to go and try and spot people towards the south, which is also a valiant effort. I'm going up on the hill. I'm trying to help that G-Saw, and unfortunately, when you're trying to contest these areas, there usually are fall guys. Luckily for me, however, I'm not the fall guy in this scenario. Although losing my fuel tanks, which I have to repair, I'm just hoping that that Char Future 4 is going to make their way up on the hill. And I'm just going to have to grit my teeth and bear it in this scenario. I've just got to hold on for as long as I can, because I actually see that a 53 TP and a Char Future 4 are coming up on the hill. And so as long as I can just avoid these players from coming around the corner, it sounds like the T49 missed in that scenario, I should be able to now hopefully hunt down this LT432. And oh, how the turns table in this scenario, right? Yeah, that's exactly how they say it. And we've managed to force that T49 off the hill, who actually shows that they're a very good player because they sneak off the hill, graciously sliding down sideways. But this is really where the hill is just absolutely king. Now you stop people from advancing along the east and the west of the map. And the main advantage is not just this, it's the fact that you can be able to react quickly to go and either deliver fire to the east, to the south, or to the west, which completely prevents the enemy team from making wide sweeping plays, and it allows you to be more reactionary in the situation. So when you're trying to get big experience games, your best opportunity to get big experience games are actually games where you're playing against higher tier tanks. But not a lot of people know, but you actually get more experience for shooting vehicles that are higher tier than you. You'll get all the experience that you would have got against an equal tier opponent, but you'll end up getting 10% more per tier difference. Now, back in the day when I was playing my VK2801, when it was at tier 5 with a 105mm caliber gun that also had 152mm of heat pen back then. It was very easy to get a large amount of experience because when I was shooting an E100, which I actually did in the game where I got my experience account record, I was getting 50% more experience per shot than I would of shooting another vehicle. So if I did like 3,000 damage, that was equivalent of doing 4,500. Or if I did 5,000 damage, that's equivalent of doing 7.5. You see how it scales very quickly when you're engaging vehicles that are higher tier. I don't have the luxury of that anymore because there are no tanks that get matched up against vehicles that are more than 2 tiers higher, but still, shooting an E100 for example will pocket a cool 20% extra, and even just shooting a standard B in this scenario will pocket a cool 10% extra with regards to raw XP. So use that at your advantage. Now I'm not saying it can't be damning when you are in those kind of games where you're just like, oh, for goodness sake, Matchmaker is messing with me again and it's put me in my stock tier 8 tank against tier 9s and tier 10s. I say a big thank you to the Char Future 4 there for coming up on the hill. As I was saying, I know it can be demoralizing when you're constantly being put against higher tiered tanks. My big tip is to just try and play the game as you would do normally, but still respect the fact that there are vehicles out there that are far more dangerous than you, and if in doubt, just try and play as a support tank. Try and find those important higher tier vehicles, especially in 3-tier game spreads, and try and support them. Because if a tier 8 tank can try and add their 1,500 hit points to the 3,000 hit point mouse, for example, that is absolutely massive. And there we go. We managed to actually get this E100's automatic fire extinguisher away. And I'm going to be firing some gold now. But that's because otherwise I can't manage to track this player and damage them. But, oh wow, look at that. At least even though I had an E100 locked down, when I finally stopped tunnel visioning to see that the T49 who was going up on top of the hill, I'd managed to save my Char Future 4 friend as they're reloading. Sorry that I didn't react 100% quickly there, but I have to admit, there's nothing quite as juicy as completely free farming a tier 10 tank in a tier 8, but still enough to be able to turn around and save this Char Future 4, who completely backed me up. And look at the game that we're having up on top of the hill. Stefan Strasny in their Char Future 4, up to 4 kills. I'm managing to put in a huge amount of damage as well, and maybe we'll even get some kills to boot as well. And remember, those frags are actually important, because frags provide a large amount of bonus experience in World of Tanks as well. And so securing frags can be a very important thing to do in World of Tanks, but not at the expense of just also doing raw damage. It'd be quite interesting to see whether it's best to do a really high amount of damage, or whether it's best to actually secure a frag on the enemy team. I'm not sure if whether, doing 750 damage in a 60 TP would probably end up being more experience than finishing off a vehicle that was only on 10 hit points. Nevertheless, let's take this true Viking Raider of a vehicle as aggressively as we can at the end of this battle. I knew I was onto something special here with 5,500 damage dealt in this +2 game. Hopefully we can lock down the tracks of the mill and try and be able to get some more assistance, maybe even get the Foch as well, and now we're just rubbing it in. We're up to nearly 6,000 damage dealt, and we're now up to also 2,000 assistance. That's 7,000 combined in this 6-minute round of World of Tanks, and hopefully we can manage to finish off this Foch as well as we change the angle, go right through the side of their vehicle. Doesn't look like that AP round nearly had enough penetration. I'm just wondering where this SU-130 PM is, and now we know. So we're going to be loading an HE round here. Unlike all of the rounds that have hit my tank so far this battle, every single one of them has been gold. But you know what, it's 2022, and who am I to tell people how to spend their credits, right? Even when they are shooting one of the most lightly armored medium tanks in the game. Haven't really talked too much about the Lancen. Great DPM, reasonable gun depression, good mobility, just raw firepower and mobility in a nutshell. That SU clearly doesn't want to shoot me. Well, I'm just going to let the 100 squish you then, mate. Okay, now he fires, so I can come around the corner and I can finish them off. And I give the E100 a thumbs up as well for tanking for me there. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as I said, this was a bit of a Viking raid of a game. We came, we saw, we conquered. Not really what the Vikings said, but they probably did pretty much the same as Caesar, right? And there's nothing quite like a good old hill fight on mines to get the adrenaline flowing. And sure, the adrenaline truly flew in this game, leading to 2,145 base experience, which unfortunately wasn't quite a replacement for the most experience I've ever had in World of Tanks, which was 3,276. And remember, that is also taking into account a premium account. So we have to take our base, which is 2,145, and we have to times it by 1.5. So it would have been 3,217 effective. So just about 60 below my record. Although I'm really not sure that I'm ever going to be able to top that. Unless suddenly they change light tanks so they can meet vehicles that are 5 tiers higher, or I probably play a few games in a filthy Churchill. And that's because more often than not, if you go onto the Tanks GG website, you will find people having ridiculously high amounts of experience playing the tier 5 Soviet premium heavy tank. The Churchill for some reason just ends up getting ridiculous multipliers, and so even when you have what would consider to be a great game for a tier 5 tank at 3,600 damage and finishing off 8 of the enemy team, you can end up with some silly statistics. It was even yesterday, I think I ended up with getting like 1,600 base in this game just for doing, I think it was only about like 2,500 damage in the Churchill. So if you're trying to set yourself a new record and you want to do it in you don't care about doing it in, should we say, a vehicle that doesn't get boosted experience, then get yourself onto the battlefield in the Churchill 3 a few times and you'll probably be able to hit one. But you know what? I also probably wouldn't recommend doing that because you'll end up with having it, you know, as tarring your account for the whole of time. And I'm still kind of happy that I have that experience from 2011 of playing that VK for that magical +5 matchmaking. And yeah, if you want to see that game from 2012 or 2011, not sure exactly when it was, then it's available on my channel in my Before It Was Enough VK2801 video. Anyway, in addition to what was an easy ace tanker, we get a LIVESTREAMS medal for destroying at least 2 vehicles that were 1 tier higher in a medium, and we get a high caliber for 6,400 damage and 1,900 assistance in 6.41 minutes, which gives me a cool 234,000 credits. Yeah, I wish I could do that every 7 minutes, but that's definitely not the case. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that's it for today. Short and sweet video on this Saturday because I'm about to sit down and stream for the next 12 hours. So if you want even more gameplay in the final drops for this weekend, then tune in now. And let me know in the comments down below, what tank do you have your highest experience in overall on your entire account? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.